All right. So thank you all for joining us this evening. This is the December 2020 meeting of ANC. Oh, Gowan, I think we need you to mute there. There you go. The December 2023 meeting of ANC3C. We record this meeting, we post it on our YouTube channel. So with that, let's get started with the establishment of a quorum. So ANC3C01.
Present.
3C02.
Present.
3C03 is me, and I am here. 3C04.
Present.
3C05.
Present.
3C06. Not here yet. 3C07.
I'm here.
3C08.
Here.
All right, with that, we have established a quorum with 7 of 8 commissioners present at this time. I can verify that we noticed the listservs, the Main Streets programs, the community associations, our ANC notice list, Twitter, and our website. So we will move on to the approval of the agenda and the consent calendar. On the consent calendar currently is the approval of the November 2023 meeting minutes, the resolution requesting a capital bike share station at the intersection of Calvert Street Northwest and 28th Street Northwest, a resolution in support of Bill 250570, Cardiac Planning and Response CPR Amendment Act of 2023, a resolution regarding BZA case number 21050 to construct a rear addition to 3601 34th Street Northwest, a resolution regarding an ABCA application, Eliza's Ethiopian Kitchen at 2614 Connecticut Avenue, and a resolution regarding BZA application for St. Albans School, the Little Sanctuary Chapel project. Are there, with approving the agenda, we would approve everything on this consent calendar. Are there any changes to the consent calendar or the agenda at large? Hearing none and no objection, the items on the consent calendar and the agenda moving this meeting forward are approved. So thank you. If you are here to hear any of those items, I know some folks were joining from the St. Albans Little Sanctuary Chapel project that has been approved. So you can feel free to carry on or move on with your evening. Thank you all again. And thank you for those of you who presented to the planning, zoning, housing, and economic development, some of the projects that were on that consent. Appreciate your time. All right, announcements, single member district reports. Does anyone have a single member district report this evening? Commissioner Siddiqui.
Trying to find my virtual hand. So first, just one key report that we have from single member district 3C05. This is also linked in the agenda as well. There's an update that's been submitted from the Washington International School, giving a construction update. That has been linked on the agenda. It's also in the latest news section of our website. So for folks that are interested in progress on how that construction is going, that construction from Washington International School has been placed on the website, and you're more than welcome to view it over there. If you all have any questions about it, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I'll also put the Zoom link in the chat here. And that is it for my my SMD update.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have an SMD report they'd like to give? Commissioner Nash.
Just really a quick update.
there will be some streets tomorrow in the vicinity of the National Cathedral, especially Woodley Road and 34th Street, that will have rolling closures tomorrow because of a special event, which is a funeral of Sandra Day O'Connor. And those are expected to occur probably before 11 and then after 1. But, you know, there could be closures at any time around that period.
Good to know. I appreciate that. I was actually looking for that traffic alert and hadn't seen it yet. So good reminder. Commissioner Prinzo.
Not specific to 3CO2, but I just do want to reiterate that the red line is closed between, I believe it's DuPont Circle and Gallery Place, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So please plan accordingly, because it's my understanding that this morning was a little bit of a shock, although I don't know how that's possible considering they started messaging this back in July. But
Cool. Thank you. Any other SMD reports? All right, seeing none, we will move on to committee reports. So we'll just run through the list, and if you have anything, please speak up. Safe, sustainable, and equitable transportation.
Yeah, we did not have a meeting this month. We don't have anything on the calendar for January either, so we will likely be canceling the meeting for January. I did want to update the community on one aspect, which is Metro eliminates $2 Smart Trip card fee for seniors. And let me put that link in the chat as well. So starting this week, the board of directors approved the elimination of a $2 fee on senior Smart Trip cards beginning Tuesday, January 16th. Senior Smart Trip cards will be issued at no cost to customers of ages 65 and older. So this is a very nice update from WMATA, and just wanted to update the community on that. But yes, no meeting this month, and we'll likely not have a meeting in January either.
Great, and just a point of clarification about the senior Smart Trip card, because the way that I had first read the headline before I actually, read the story, was that they were eliminating like the fee to take the bus at all. But that's not true. It's just to make the transaction to get the card. That transaction fee is waived, not the ridership fare.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you for clarifying that.
I feel like that could have been a little bit more clear on their part. So
but
I
they
agree.
do get a reduced fare,
yes,
right?
still
Yeah, I
yes,
thought so.
fair, but it just seemed like they were eliminating that altogether too.
Oh, well, that's not very interesting.
We'll get there one day. So transparency and public process.
Nothing for us.
Okay, community engagement and grants.
I don't have an update. We didn't meet this month, but I'm putting you on notice that I think we may have a grant next month, so we'll be scheduling a meeting.
Awesome. Planning, zoning, housing, and economic development. Commissioner Gordon, I don't know what your feelings are, but I have a feeling like we won't need that January meeting, so we'll probably cancel that. And it's like really close to the holiday because it would be, I believe, right after the new year.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry, I was fumbling for the mute button earlier. Yeah, I think that would be great if we don't have anything hot, if we can just go ahead and let that one go.
Okay, great. And then for the February, possibly March meeting, because I think the meeting that this is scheduled for in front of Zoning Commission, the Office of Planning does have a set down report out to make a rule change regarding parking requirements for publicly funded affordable housing units. That we want to probably take a look at and have some comments on. But again, that was just released today, so more to come on that. And I think it's an important thing because they found that Rock Creek West is where folks that were making affordable developments were running into trouble with parking minimum requirements. But we don't have to take that up till February. Residential historic preservation.
Yeah, Commissioner Nash is also taking, so go ahead, Commissioner Nash, you're muted.
Nothing to report at this point.
Okay. Environmental justice,
Did not have a meeting in December, so our next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, January 9th, 6:30 p.m. If we can get that off the ground so close to the new year. And we'll plan to follow the second Tuesday of each month for our meetings in 2024.
great, thank you. Public safety, I know that we have a number of nominations, but do we want to do those first, or you guys want to do?
Why don't we do the nominations first, and then we'll just have a quick report. The committee did meet in December, and as you note, there are 3 nominations that are proposed by the single member district members for the districts where the community members reside. And I'll read those, and then perhaps the commissioners can speak to the nominations. So the first is Elizabeth Ferenczi from 3CO5, and Commissioner Siddiqui will speak to that. The second is Courtney Tolbert from 3CO3, and co-chair Adam Prinzo will speak to that. And then Mitchell Klein from 3CO7, and Commissioner Kripke will speak to that.
Would you like me to go ahead, Commissioner Nash?
Certainly.
Go ahead, Solly.
So thank you, Commissioner Nash. So Elizabeth has been involved in our community for a long time. She's been on the board for the Cleveland Park Community Association. I also served with her on that board. She's been very active in the community, really done a lot of things, and has been one of my inspirations for serving the community as well. Much more relevant, she has been involved in starting an equivalent type of public safety committee with the Cleveland Park Community Association as well. So I think this will serve as a very good contact between the ANC and the Cleveland Park Community Association. She's also done work with MPD and gone on their, now I'm forgetting what it's called, but they kind of have where you spend sort of time with the MPD on their academy and go out with police officers and learn about how they operate in the city. So she also knows the system somewhat well. So I think she'll be a fantastic person on the committee, and I hope that you all agree to my nomination and give her their vote.
Okay, so I'm assuming you're moving the nomination?
I would like to move the nomination. Elizabeth also couldn't make it tonight, but I've sent her bio around and she wrote that and stuff. So yeah, she apologizes. I would like to move the nomination.
Second that.
A second, is there any discussion, any questions? With that, let's move to a vote. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand. All right, I see all 8 hands up. Excellent, so that passes 8-0. And welcome her to the committee. Up next, this is actually my nomination of Courtney out of my SMD. So Courtney Tolbert, even I don't have her bio right in front of me right now, but I've known her for a year. She's been actively involved with the Woodley Park Community Association for many, many years. Also was their board president for a while. She is just all around a lovely neighbor and wonderful person. Adam, I don't know if she sent a bio to you and you have it on hand.
I spoke to her today. She unfortunately couldn't join, but she's very much looking forward to joining the Public Safety Committee. She chairs the Woodley Park Community Association's Public Safety Committee, but it is not very active. So that's all I have.
She's also a frequent L2 buddy when we ride the bus together downtown. So I get to catch up with her in that regard as well. So I hope that I'm moving the nomination. I hope there's a second and we can.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion, questions?
I'll
Commissioner,
just say, I'll just say Courtney's a great neighbor. I consider her a friend and a longtime community participant, and so she's excellent for any role that we have for her.
Great, thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. All right, I see all 8 hands are up, so that passes 8-0. So looking forward to Courtney joining us too on this committee. All right, and then Commissioner Kripke, I believe the last nomination is yours.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Mitchell Klein to the Public Safety Committee. Mitchell's a neighbor with a very busy person with 2 small kids and a new resident in Woodley Park in my SMD. He's and very welcome. I really appreciate his willingness to spend some time doing this public service by participating in the committee. Discussion of public safety was one of the first things he raised with me when I first met him. So I thought he was a natural, and if he's going to talk about it, I wanted to invite him to be able to contribute. So I'm really glad he agreed. I sent a little bio around. I don't know if that gets part of the becomes part of the record, but hopefully that does. I think he's on the call. I see him here, and so if it's appropriate, I'd like to invite him just to say hello. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you very much, Commissioner, and thank you to everyone. My name is Mitchell, and my wife and I have 2 young daughters, and we bought our first home right here in Woodley Park last year. Although we are both longtime Washingtonians, and I've lived here since graduating law school about 14 years ago. We absolutely love this area and want to do whatever we can to help keep it somewhere that young families feel that they're safe. So I really appreciate this nomination and very much look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Okay, so I move to, forgive me for not knowing the rules carefully. I move to approve the nomination.
Is there a second? Commissioner Gordon appears to.
Second. Sorry, I was on mute.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions from the commissioners? I just want to say thank you for your willingness to participate and join us, and welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
All right, with that, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. All right, I see 7 hands. All those opposed? None. Any abstentions? 1 abstention. So this is approved 7-0-1. So thank you, and look forward to getting to know you on this committee.
Thank you.
So that concludes the nominating part of the public safety group. Do you have anything else, co-chairs Prinzo or Nash?
I would just add that at each of the committee meetings that we've had so far, we've had regular updates from Lieutenant Johnson and the last time from Captain Haskis of the 2nd District, both of which were really informative. We have a busy sort of advanced agenda as we go into the early part of the year and the early spring, including we expect to hear from the U.S. Attorney's Office, from the Office of Unified Communications, from Councilmember Brooke Pinto, who is the chair of the Council's Public Safety Committee on the legislation that was recently had its hearing and will be further amended, both proposed by the mayor as well as the council member herself and some other related bills. We hope to hear from the Red Cross as well, and particularly their emergency preparedness issues. And then finally do what we can to support Council Member Fruman, who is bringing, some push to MPD to institute foot patrols in our commercial areas as soon as resources permit. And at the committee meeting last week, Captain Haskis said that is also his priority. So we look forward to that. Commissioner Prinzo, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, our next meeting is tentatively slated for, I believe it's January 18th, which is the third Thursday to accommodate, because our ANC is meeting on the third Wednesday to accommodate for MLK Day. 7 p.m. on Zoom. Be there.
Great. Thank you. All right. Matthew from the mayor's office, do you have anything for us this evening?
Hello, everyone. I do. Hold on one
Okay.
second.
As long as you're brief.
I will be brief. Regarding my name is Matthew Barclay. I'm with the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. My number is 202-340-7853. And my email is matthew.barclay@dc.gov, 2 T's in Matthew. Excuse me. I'm the liaison with the Mayor's Office of Relations Services. Can help you if any needs that you may have, so please reach out. This week we had some news about the Monumental Sports and Gallery Place. Monumental's decision this week, after many months of negotiations, offers, counteroffers, and deal making. The district's final offer was a generous one. The best and final offer was made, and it was unanimous support among the DC Council. That support will get a hearing and will get moved for a first vote in less than 6 weeks. We will continue to advance this option. So if Monument wants to transform Capital One into a world-class state-of-the-art urban arena, we will welcome that. We're also going to stay at the table with them, keep the offer open, and let them know if it doesn't work out in Virginia, we'll continue to have that conversation with them. Our work to support downtown DC is more vital than ever, and this is an opportunity to pivot and think about what's next for downtown. Gallery Place can and will become DC's true entertainment and cultural destination, anchored by the convention center, and an entertainment and cultural destination with a seamless shopping, entertainment, food, and arts experience all the way down 7th Street to the archives and to the mall. When we launched Downtown Action Plan, we knew we needed to change the mix of uses in downtown and bring 15,000 new residents to
Matthew,
downtown.
Yeah.
Can we please keep it brief and not have too much extra stuff that's not news? Thank you.
Sorry.
I mean, that's news. It's what we want to tell you.
Okay.
All right. Also, $22.5 million in U.S. Treasury funding for Whitman MOCR to enhance Max Robinson Center was just announced this week. The federal Treasury funding. Also, the State Office of State Superintendent of Education is reminding DC families that the school lottery is now open. Please go to myschool.dc.org and apply to as many as 12 schools and rank them as your top choices. Thank you.
Great. Do you have any updates to the trash situation at 3000 Connecticut that the neighbors have
I
imposed?
do.
And just in general, like how can we go through and check down the various, like, I know Department of Public Works is a resource, Department of Health for Radabate. So can we have more conversation about that rather than monuments just forward?
So yes, I understand. So DPW just started a new office that focuses on apartment complexes that are larger than a certain amount. I think it's like 60 units, and then also apartment complexes that are attached to mixed use. And so this property would fit into that criteria. I sent them information on what's been going on there, and the Ward 3 representative for that office is in touch with the building owners, and at the time of her unannounced inspection, things seemed to be fine. And then also there was a DOB inspection, I believe on Tuesday of last week, but it was not on Sunday, which everybody's trying to get Sunday inspections for that. And we are working towards that as well. yeah, so there's the DOB side, and then there's also the DPW is now working on that property.
Okay. So who is the first call that one should make when there is this situation? Because I know further up Connecticut, there's issues with the internal trash chutes clogging up the building, right? And that becomes a fire hazard. So another option is I can call the fire marshal up there and get them out to inspect it. But is it like who's the first call that we are to direct somebody to go to? Is there a 311 category?
Oh, is there a 311 category? I'm not sure. I don't know if there's a 311 category. I can get back to you. DOB would
There
be
isn't. There is not a 311 category if it's a private residence or multifamily home.
So DOB is the agency that is responsible for making sure that buildings are appropriately managing their waste. And then with this added element of DPW, there's also that, which I can get you in contact with them as well if you'd like.
Okay, but if it's the restaurants, trash bins that are causing a problem to abutting, because we have another problem down Woodley Place, the 2600 block, where it seems to be the restaurants' trash bins are the source of it. There's not enough multifamily in those buildings. Is it then health?
Yes, that would be DC Health.
Okay. We're seeing though how this is confusing, because if I'm confused, like
Yes,
everyone completely.
Yeah, I understand. It's confusing for me too sometimes. But DC Health is aware of the 2600 block. I believe Gerard Brown, we call him the Rat Czar. I'm not sure if that's his real title, but I don't think it is. He's the rat guy. And he'll be meeting with them, I believe, this week on what things that can happen. I think, wasn't there talks about a trash compactor in Woodley Park as well?
That's a different block of.
Different block, okay.
I think there actually might be on the 2600 block.
There is.
I know they've been out there to inspect last year before, because they asked me to go on a rat walk and I was like, hard pass.
I mean, trash compactors are great.
Yes. Well, but it doesn't matter.
Expensive. Yes.
But okay, so that's somewhat good to know. But hopefully with whatever the new guidance and rules are, this becomes a little bit more fleshed out, because what ends up happening, it goes to multiple different agencies and then nobody does anything about it, right?
Understood.
And then it's the amount of photos I have of rats and trash is becoming very embarrassing. Okay, cool. Thank you.
I hope that there will be progress this week.
Huh? Sorry.
Hopefully there's progress this week.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Commissioner Prinzo, did you have a question or a comment?
I wanted to comment briefly on the monumental sports because I do think the loss of the Capitals and the Wizards in downtown would be detrimental. However, I also do think that we have spent many millions of dollars on Ted Leonis, and I think there has to come a point where we need to start spending money on DC residents and not billionaires with multiple sports teams. But at the same cost, we do need the two teams to stay downtown.
Fair. Okay, anyone have anything else?
All I had is raised.
I think he was clapping.
Oh,
Just the hand raised. All right. Thank you, Matthew.
you're welcome.
Anyone from Councilmember Fruman's office here want to say anything? I thought I saw.
Elias is here.
Hi, everybody. I'm taking Lauren's spot today because she covered ANC3C for me last month. My name is Elias Benda. I'm the legislative assistant for Councilmember Fruman. My email is ebenda@dccouncil.gov. A couple of quick updates. We hear all the time, as I'm sure you do, that from constituents with residential safety concerns related to the actions of other tenants who engage in patterns of dangerous behavior. And we wanted to let everybody know the DC Superior Court recently implemented administrative changes that will ensure landlord-tenant cases involving defendants who pose a significant immediate health or safety danger are moved and heard more quickly. So if you want more information on that, please feel free to reach out. It's an important step to prioritize eviction cases involving danger to health and safety. Councilmember Fruman also sent a letter to the mayor on December 15th, urging the release of the revised design for implementation of the Connecticut Avenue multimodal safety improvement project, reaffirming his belief that the district must pursue a solution proven to be effective at improving safety outcomes, installing protected bike lanes and pedestrian infrastructure. Finally, we have a budget listening session on January 20th via Zoom. Please stay tuned to our newsletter in early January for more information and the registration link. You can find that. You can find our newsletter sign up at mattfrumanward3.com. Lastly, we introduced the Universal Out of School Time Amendment Act of 2023 now 2 weeks ago. This would guarantee every public school or public charter school student in DC free access to before, after summer break and school break programming by 2035, achieved through an increase in seats by 10% every year until then. Happy to answer any other questions. Thanks so much for having us.
Great, thank you. Any questions?
I have a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
I don't know if you know the answer, but if you could get back to me, that would be great. Is there a threshold for what is considered a health and safety hazard? Because there are instances in the city of people parlaying very minor instances with their neighbors to like major court battles, and that's not something that the DC court needs to be consuming with. And I understand that this building is targeted at multifamily residential rental buildings, because it's very easy to kick somebody out of a rental building because they don't own the apartment. But these problems also exist in multifamily homes that are co-ops or condos. And is there any preventative or protection measures for people in those buildings who are feeling like their neighbors might pose a health and safety hazard?
Find the language to your first question about what the definition for these health and safety violations are on the Superior Court's website, where they've updated the case. They've updated the form that you fill out. I can try to find that and get it back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other commissioners? Okay, Kathy?
Very quick question. Elias, thanks for the report. There's going to be consideration later on in this meeting of an amendment to the Green New Deal for Housing, Act. And I noticed that among the 6 or so, council members who are co-sponsoring it, I don't think I saw Matt's name, and I was just wondering if that is going to change, or if there's any particular reason.
And you're referring to the Green New Deal for social housing legislation?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so there was no specific reasoning behind that. Councilmember Fruman engaged in the public hearing on the legislation a couple weeks ago, I think it was. And it continues to want to have a conversation regarding that legislation. I'm happy to get a more detailed response to you on his reactions to that hearing itself. But I think yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. All right, anyone else? All right. Any agencies here? I'm not seeing any names that are familiar from there. Community organizations.
Sandra's waving her hand. I don't know.
I don't see that.
Am I seeing things?
Oh, there you are. Sorry. I feel like you sunk down below your title for a second and I was like, I just see a picture. Go ahead.
Hiding from you, Janelle. So exciting news. The Holiday Lights winners have been announced. Cleveland Park, we have Cracked Eggery, All Fired Up, Transcendence, Perfection, Bliss of the Beyond, Cleveland Park Fine Wine and Spirits, Cleveland Park Ballet, Medium Rare, Nanny O'Brien's, and Best in Show was Laredo. You can go to our Instagram to find out which categories each of the businesses won. Holiday Lights will continue through January 7th. There's a scavenger hunt, prizes, so get out there, walk around, support your small businesses. And then on January 16th at the library, Frank Four from The Atlantic will be our first speaker of the year for Tuesday Talks. It is free, registration is required, and I will send the link to Swale so he can share it with everyone. Yeah, happy holidays. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All righty. I think that's all for that section of the agenda. So up next, presentation. So we have a cardiac health presentation by Miss DC, and Commissioner Prinzo, I'll turn it over to you for the introduction.
Sure. So I am going to introduce Miss District of Columbia 2023, Jude, who I have known for feels like forever, but it's only been 7 years. She is my friend and my neighbor, and she's the only one that can withstand Aggie's territorial reign over this department. Aggie's my dog, for people that don't know. But she is here to talk about cardiac health, and just for reference, we did pass a resolution in support of a bill that she is working on with Councilmember McDuffie, the Cardiac Response and Planning and Response CPR Act of 2023. So I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Autumn. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Jude Maboné, and I'm Miss District of Columbia 2023. I leave in like 18 days for Miss America, which is a crazy thing to say because I competed 9 times over the course, I competed 7 times over the course of 9 years to get to this point. But it was a deep love of the Woodley Park community and just DC in general that really kept me coming back year after year. So like Adam said, I've been working on some legislation with the American Heart Association, which is, we're referring to it as the CERP bill. So that's Cardiac Emergency Response Plan. And essentially, when you think about Bronny James or Damar Hamlin, what saved their lives wasn't just that somebody knew CPR. It was that there were people who were specifically assigned to different tasks in a cardiac emergency response. So somebody knew that it was their job to do CPR. Somebody else knew it was their job to get the AED. Somebody else called 911. Somebody else, did whatever. And so we are looking to make that legislation one that hits every DC public school, so that every student athlete in the District of Columbia, no matter how old or how small they are, has access to the same level of care that, an NFL player or a future NBA star has. And so this work has really stemmed from my own experiences because I was 16 years old when I had my first heart attack. I was on a very standard 6-mile run during summer cross country practice. When around mile 3, I started having chest pains. At mile 5, I had to stop running because my chest pains became more severe. I was profusely sweating. I had stabbing pain in my left shoulder. I was dizzy. I was nauseous. And I knew that these symptoms were ones of a heart attack, but I thought I'm 16 and I'm healthy. And that's not, people who have heart attacks aren't people who are 16 and healthy. And so I was a mile from my high school and a mile from my parents' house. And I knew that I needed to get help. So I did a walk jog back to my high school and waited for EMS to arrive by myself because my coach didn't know what to do in that type of emergency. And so what we're trying to do is ensure that every student athlete is safer than I was and has the same level of care that Bronny James and Damar Hamlin had. And so I'm really hopeful about what will come from the DC Council and appreciative of your resolution in support of that. And just grateful for all the support that I've had throughout my year as Miss DC so far, thanks to Adam and just the Woodley Park community in general.
Thank you. I don't think there will be any questions, but Swale has a question. Swale, Commissioner Siddiqui, sorry. It's been a long day.
Well, I I mean, I guess I do have a question, but before I say that, just want to let you know that we're so proud that you live within our ANC. And so, the fact that you're here and then you're doing all this great work, I mean, you're a local celebrity, and thank you for coming to our meeting. This is so nice of you. And, it's so exciting whenever I tell folks that like Miss DC's in our ANC and she's going to be at our meeting. So it's absolutely wonderful. Thank you for coming. And I just want to thank my colleague, Commissioner Prinzo, as well, who's like, wrote the resolution and pushed it and everything like that. And he also invited you here. So thank you, Commissioner Prinzo, for that. I guess one question is, what's the biggest roadblock here? Like, why doesn't DC do this? Why doesn't every school in America do this? What's the biggest roadblock?
Well, so DC has historically been on the forefront of cardiac emergency response. I mean, we are one of the few states that requires that all high school students have to take CPR and learn CPR as part of their health education prior to graduating. And that was something that Councilmember McDuffie was one of the forefront. He was at the forefront of that, which is why I think that he's really taken on this new initiative. And so I think that they're planning on having a hearing, hopefully in the new year. And I'm optimistic that we'll have full support from the DC Council on this, because when it comes to the lives of our littlest and most vulnerable Washingtonians, I don't think that there's anyone who would disagree that this is so important, especially because sudden cardiac arrest, which is typically what is needed to be solved with CPR and AED, unlike a heart attack where you may not lose consciousness, but sudden cardiac arrest is the #1 killer of student athletes. And it's also the #1 killer of people under the age of 25. So it's a very serious issue. It's something that, unfortunately, I think there's a stigma about heart disease where the majority of people that you think of when you think of these types of issues probably don't look like me. They probably don't look like a 7-year-old soccer player or, a 14-year-old basketball player. But the reality is this is something that is impacting the youngest and healthiest among us. And it's something that matters to everybody, because I'm certain that everybody on this call likely knows somebody, or maybe themselves has experienced a cardiac emergency of some sort.
I'd also like to echo, thanks to you for representing us. And I think it's also very awesome that you live in this area and that this is so important to you. As someone who's a lifelong Girl Scout and also as a lifeguard for many years, I've learned CPR when I was in, I believe, like 4th grade, right? So, and for the most part, kept up that certification for a very long time. And it is really important to, like, first responders, not the official ones, but the ones that are just happen to be there, like, know what to do and can take that action, and have the confidence to take that action too is really important. So I really appreciate what you're doing, and you will have the full support of us, and we will definitely, if you want to go talk to any other of the ANCs, we'll spread word amongst our colleagues on the commissions throughout the district. So
Thank
really,
you. One thing I think I will add is hands-only CPR is the preferred method now. You don't have to do the whole breathing thing. That's been a real turnoff for a lot of people. And also, if people on this call don't know CPR, I encourage you to learn it. I recently made a video with Gallaudet University and MedStar Health teaching CPR and AED use specifically for the deaf and hard of hearing community. But I've been working with MedStar to create opportunities all over the city for people to learn how to do CPR and use an AED and gain that confidence. But the district has one of the worst rates of bystander CPR in the country, which is scary because we are so small and we are a community of people that people generally think of as do-gooders and, just people who are compassionate and people who want to help. But we have one of the worst rates of bystander CPR in the entire nation. And Black, Hispanic adults and women are among the groups that are least likely to receive bystander CPR. So just make sure that we're all staying up to date on that. You don't necessarily have to be certified to give CPR, but there's a lot of resources made available specifically by MedStar Health that can help bridge that gap if you have lost your certification.
that's really interesting, that statistic. I would not have guessed that either. And I do agree with you. Like, yeah, you don't need to be certified, and just the breathing taking away thing, I think, helps definitely a lot of the intimidation factor of helping.
Yes. And so that is our goal, is to get as many people as we can educated and aware and just feeling confident in their ability to jump in and help out, because realistically, if you don't get an AED to somebody, their chance of survival drops by 10% every minute. So it's really, really important that we provide that access to resources to people, and hopefully this SERP bill will go through and keep our student athletes even safer and just our community at large even safer.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else have anything they want to say? Commissioner Prinzo?
I just also would like to echo a huge thank you for coming, because I know this isn't exactly the most fun place to be on a Monday night, but thank you for coming, and we all wish you well in January as you potentially may become the next Miss America.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Adam, or your formal title, Commissioner Prinzo. Formal.
Great. Thank you again and good luck. All right. We'll move on to the community forum. This is where members of the public are invited to ask questions and raise concerns about issues that aren't otherwise on the agenda. Please limit your time to 1 to 2 minutes if you can. Is there anyone who has anything to bring up in the community forum? All right, seeing.
Hello, do I need to like raise my hand or something? I'm sorry.
Would be helpful, but go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I'm new here. Hi, I'm Ben Peters. I'm a relatively new DC resident. I live in Woodley Park. I have been trying for years now to get a tax return from the city from when I was an intern in college. I've been to the tax office several times. I've been on the phone with them several times. They've told me many times, oh, we'll mail it to you. It'll be there in, I think, 6 to 10 weeks, and it's just never come. Is there anybody who I can reach out to who could help expedite this process?
Well, Matthew Barclay is still here.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I was gonna say.
Can you send me an email at Matthew, excuse me, Matthew, MATTHEW .Barclay, BARCLAY at DC.gov.
Can you spell BARCLAY at DC.gov?
Just put it in the chat as well.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I have a very good contact. You're welcome.
We wish you luck too. All right, anyone else? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the commission business section, where the first item in this section is a letter requesting Representative Norton work with the National Park Service on land transfers in Woodley Park. Specifically, this is to transfer the land located at the southwest corner of Connecticut Avenue and Calvert Street from the National Park Service to the District of Columbia. And Commissioner Prinzo, if you want to take it away.
So just briefly, this letter is a formality asking Congresswoman Norton to work to transfer the unused land at the southwest corner of Connecticut Avenue and Calvert Street, adjacent to the Taft Bridge, to DC for reprogramming. Right now, it's basically a grassy area that is neither upkept or necessarily pretty. It's home to a retired Metro bus station and a Capital Bike Share location, but other than that, there really is nothing there, and it has somewhat become an eyesore. So with that, I move that.
I will second that.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, so that's been seconded, so we'll open it up for discussion amongst commissioners. Does anyone have anything to say? Commissioner Kripke.
Hi, just a few comments from me. First, just to note that it's in my SMD, so I have some interest in the transfer. I generally agree with what's described here, which is that it's an underused and somewhat disused piece of property that has a lot of value. There's a lot of foot traffic. It's quite visible. It's right at the commercial crossroads. So it's a cool little patch of ground that is not being utilized well and could be. It's Park Service land. So the idea that it should be used better and maybe a transfer from the Park Service would be a good idea. I agree with. My concern here, though, is that the letters imply some ideas about what should happen with it, which I don't object to per se, but I think that we ought to have a more robust conversation about what we're thinking there. And so as part of this effort, I'm not going to object to the letter because I think we should try to get the process started. But I would like to invite or suggest or request, or maybe even I'll organize if people are interested, a discussion about what we could envision on this little patch of ground that's quite valuable. So and I'm concerned about rushing ahead on ideas without like really talking it through and consulting with neighbors and so forth. So those are a few points to make, and I'll stop there.
Just quickly, we're not right now, we're just trying to get the land transferred. It would be much later when the land is officially transferred to DC that DPR, excuse me, would have the wherewithal to figure out what happens.
Well, and
I
that
think.
process would be required
Yeah,
to have robust
public engagement.
and all of that stuff. So that would be after we get the land in DC's hands. Then
Correct.
we could go through that with OP, with DDOT, with if it ends up in DPR's hands or not, because it could go to
Sorry.
agencies. And if I may, Commissioner Kripke, I heard what you were saying. And I had added, and I apologize for this being late, a paragraph to the letter, third paragraph to the end that says this space has also been identified as a gateway by the DC Office of Planning and the recently completed Connecticut Avenue Design Development Guidelines. This space should celebrate places of arrival and transition along the corridor. And this would be much more likely to be successful if the land were in the hands of the District of Columbia rather than the National Park Service. And I think that if we don't push for this land transfer to happen, nothing good there will happen at all. So I'm confident in taking this step to then get the next best steps to happen with the programming and what it actually looks like with more community input and involvement. Commissioner Siddiqui, you had your hand up, you put it down. Commissioner Nash put his hand up. Do you want to say anything?
Commissioner Nash can go.
Okay, Commissioner Nash.
Sure. Chair Pagets, I just have and Commissioner Prinzo, I have two quick questions. First, what is the approximate size of this parcel? We describe about where it is, but don't describe, how much property is under consideration. And if you know, I think it would be good to put that in the letter. The other question is, have you or other stakeholders had discussions so far with the National Park Service, to determine whether this is something that, pretty much.
Sorry, go ahead.
Contentious process.
I had a preliminary discussion with a staffer for Congresswoman Norton about it. It's something that they, request multiple times a month, but it's not, a particularly easy process because MPS is determined to keep their hands on as much land as possible in the district. It's not an overly large parcel of land. Granted, I can't really give you an exact size because the trees are so poorly maintained right now that I don't even think there's definitely land behind the trees that would be incorporated, but I just can't physically see it. But it's sizable, but not much.
Yeah, I think that would be further down the line with a survey when they determine if this is feasible or not. I think the other thing is throughout the District of Columbia, there are several neighborhoods that are trying to reclaim a lot of these pocket parks that are poorly maintained from the National Park Service and put them back in DC's hands. A lot of these areas of land that MPS has that are kind of like wonky, may or may not have a plan for a future monument or memorial for through the National Planning Commission's like Grand Master Scheme Plan of memorials and those things. But there's just some that just don't make sense. So this is something Congressman Norton or Congressmember Norton's office has taken on earlier this year in a more robust nature. So this isn't like unique that we would be asking for this, but yeah.
And also just to add to that, MPS is notoriously, like the zoo, a very bad neighbor. I mean, if you look at what Commissioner Kripke had to go through to get Woodley Playground cleaned up, if you look at the DuPont Circle fountain that has been on and off and on and off for years. So, you know, I think that would be, as weird as it is to say, better maintained by the DC government than MPS.
Commissioner McCorson?
Yes, thank you. My question is why this particular parcel of land at this time? I tend to agree with the content of the letter, but as a commissioner, I'm aware of Delegate Norton's advocacy for this over the years, these types of issues, and I'm aware of other neighborhoods with these pocket parks, like Commissioner Paggett's mentioned. And I'm curious if it might be better use of our platform to look more closely at our commission. Are there other parts of, are there other parcels of land within our commission that we might also advocate for and include in this letter? Should we take it on like this, or when the time comes that could we take it on all at once, or when the time comes that we discover, oh, here's another one, would we repeat the same process? So why this particular piece of land at this time is my question.
For this particular piece, there are a few things that kind of have momentum at play. One being what the development guidelines said about this being a gateway. Two, if we're going to go in and do the construction on the Taft, which would be a DDOT project, there is the possibility of just grabbing, if National Park Service lets that land go and gives it to DDOT, that could be part of that project, and that would be more efficient, hopefully, use of district, funds, time, and disruption of construction process, right? Because if you're going to be in there doing the thing, then to make that pretty is probably not going to be that much more. So I think those bits make it a more palatable opportunity for all involved. And that's a little bit of why I agree with you. Yes, there's a number of these bits and pieces, right? It would be great if the district could identify them at large, the ones that they think are low-hanging fruit that they'd want to take over, right? And we don't have to do it piecemeal. But I think in the future, as we do come across them and it makes sense, especially with any kind of development coming in around where the Park Service controls land, that could be of more use to something else. Yeah, we should take it on. Does that make sense and answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of, because there are two things. Does this help Delegate Norton with her advocacy if we write to her about one single parcel of land in our commission, or if we had, more instances that we can document that might bolster that case, her case and our case? And second, what I meant by I'm kind of aware of this, I don't know if the public is as aware of this as they could be. And I think that our role as a commission could be to lean into that education angle and get more public support among our constituents, our residents, for this parcel and this concept in general that Delegate Norton advocates for. And I wonder if that could also help us generate more public support for this. Like the letter mentions a dog park. I'm not aware, like, I don't know this parcel of land offhand. I can picture it from how it's described, but is that used for that purpose? Or is there a group of dog walkers?
Yeah, it's unofficially used for that purpose.
Right. So I'm wondering about, you know,
I
mobilizing.
think it's, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just, you know, that we take the time to educate folks and make them aware of these kinds of issues, get their voices heard too.
Yeah, I mean, to go to your first question, I do think it's easier if you do this one at a time, because if I think there's an example over in Ward 5 with, is it Fort, I'm blanking on the name, where they found a number of these pocket parks in their ANC, but they focused on one. I think it's easier from the federal government standpoint to say like, oh, we're giving up this one small portion of land, as opposed to, oh, we're giving up like 99 acres, but not really, to the District of Columbia. So, I mean, if we wanted to later on go back and identify all of these areas like that, I would be totally okay with that too. But I just think, you know, doing it one at a time, or maybe 2 or 3 at a time, might be more easy, in my opinion.
I think the answer is yes, and like, yes, we do this one, and because it's such a prominent piece of real estate that enters the community, it does warrant a standalone. And also, if it's going to be a memorial to the folks who lost their lives on that bridge, like it should not be grouped with others. And I feel very strongly about that. But that doesn't stop us from identifying more of these spaces and doing the community education to I think a lot of people also don't even know that a lot of this land isn't DC land, that it's National Park Service controlled land. And I think there's a there too, regarding that. Commissioner Steeke.
Yeah, I mean, I acknowledge what Commissioner McCorson is saying about, you know, kind of looking at this in a much broader way, but I think I agree with what both Commissioner Paggett and Commissioner Prinzo are saying. I mean, ANCs, it's much easier if we like target things and then use that as an example to, like what you said, Commissioner McCorson, to teach, but then also to go after things and set precedents and things like that. I would feel like if any commissioners here ever had a piece of land like this that they were interested in trying, like, yes, I would support that as well, if it made sense. And I think, at least personally for me, this one makes sense to me.
All right.
I have a suggestion, if I may.
Hold on.
No,
Leonard, hold on. We lost Rick. Just for it.
He just came back.
He just came.
Okay.
I just let him back in.
You lost me for just a moment.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Do any other commissioners have comment or question before we open it up to the public? Okay, no. All right. Leonard, you can make your comment or question now, please. Are you there?
I just asked you to unmute.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear
There
me?
you are. Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So I just want to suggest a couple of points to implement what Janelle and Adam have recommended. And I agree with their general views strongly, based on what has been 15 years of intensive work in negotiating land transfers and other matters with the Park Service to create a national Park in my hometown of Paterson, New Jersey. And I've dealt with the bottom of the Park Service and the top of the Park Service and every level in between. And I have just two suggestions to keep in mind. One, never underestimate how long it will take, how difficult it will be, and how complicated what we call the NPS, but which is really a bunch of different offices and agencies and departments and silos in a heavily layered bureaucracy. Never underestimate how complicated it can be, or how what seems to be simple, how long it will take. I think the idea of going for just this parcel is really quite compelling in light of the plan that Janelle has properly pointed out, and in light of this gateway at this time, which is so important, I think, to the community. I know the site well, but I also know the Park Service well. It's going to be something that we're going to have to stay with for the long haul. And if you wanted to set up a working group, I'd be happy to talk with them and give them a little bit of advice. But I don't think the Park Service will be inclined to react positively, notwithstanding what Eleanor urges or whatever. If it's simply transfer the land to the district and we're going to figure out what to do, I think you have to give them more than that, an idea of what might be different alternatives, how we would recommend going forward to present those alternatives for the public and engage the public, something the Park Service cares a great deal about. But simply saying, transfer the land now and we'll work with the district to work it out is, in my view, not going to fly. And to all, a happy holiday and a happy new year.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do think, and Janelle Commissioner Paggis can correct me if I'm wrong, that we do offer like some suggestions, but not anything that's like fleshed out, like design wise or anything like.
Well, yes, we kind of are like that, but based on what you've just said, Leonard, I'm wondering if we could try going at this from both ends and like asking for the transfer and also just asking, hey, MPS, we have some ideas, and like approaching it that way, because currently we don't have any nice space there. So the worst anyone is going to tell us is no. So I think there's a there to like do kind of go through both of these paths. We don't need to choose one or the other, because I mean, maybe MPS does think this is a great idea to program themselves and they just need some input and help. But at the same time, if they're just like, no, it's easier for us to just transfer. So my suggestion right now is like, let's go with this letter if the commission approves it, obviously. And then like, let's work through some other options and ideas to engage the Park Service with the space too. And maybe this is something they're willing to undertake. So Commissioner Prinzo would.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. That's fine. And if Leonard, if you want to send me, if you want to send me and Janelle an email, I've worked for the federal government, but I have no experience with MPS, so I'm more than happy to learn from you on that. Did we lose Leonard?
No, I'm here. I worked for the federal government too when I got out of law school, and working for the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, which is a bureaucracy in and of itself. But let me tell you something. HUD is a smooth running machine compared to the National Park Service. You have no idea. And I wasn't suggesting we get drawings and architects. Or anything like that. I think the idea of a process, and maybe what might be because the Park Service and NEPA like the idea of alternatives, just an idea that, oh, well, this one alternative might be this, one alternative might be that, a third, and we really want to seek the views of and engage the community in reaching a conclusion. If anyone thinks that it's better to just have the Park Service do it, the Park Service will never, in my lifetime, assign a high enough priority to this area of land in order to get it done in the next 25 years. It's just totally unrealistic. I watched how long it took in Georgetown for what was then Senator Percy's favorite project on the Georgetown waterfront. It took decades, and it was easy.
I just want you to finalize that thought, because
I'm finalizing. I'm saying that's in my view, leaving it to the Park Service is not the right course.
Okay.
I think the commission's view, saying we want to transfer the land, but adding we want to create this process. It will be respectful of the plan, Park Service guidelines, yada yada yada. I think that is the better course. That's my simple point.
Janelle, and if it's okay with this, sorry, Commissioner Pagets or Chair Pagets, really, if it's okay with you, I will propose a friendly amendment to my own letter that we just add a paragraph or flesh out the paragraph on our suggestions more, that we would look forward to doing more public engagement on what this land is at a future time.
Yeah, that works for me. I actually just added a note to as long as the rest of the commission is okay with us fleshing that out before we transmit. Is there any further discussion? I would accept that as a friendly amendment to this.
I mean, I totally trust both of you to flesh it out and do it, but I don't want us to set a precedent on voting for stuff before we see exact language. So if you can do it right now, that's great. That would be my preference. But if others also want to go for it, that's fine.
Hold on, let me just look at where she is.
Is it, I mean, is there some urgency to this, or is there a reason we couldn't wait?
Commissioner Pagets, I'll defer to you. I mean, I think we can flesh out language quickly. But if you want to.
If I can open it up and help you all type it right now and share screen, if that's easier.
Okay.
I mean, the urgency is this process is going to take forever, right? So why do we keep kicking the can down the road? This letter has been up and available for a week now.
Okay, I'm just gonna have to object there. This is a lot in this letter, and I heard about it a week ago. It's my SMD, and I would like us to wait a month and get this right and do it right. I don't know why we have to rush it through. I hear you, it's gonna be long. So that's the reverse argument. That says we shouldn't rush it through. We should take our time and do it right.
Are you moving to table it?
Commissioner Prinzo, you know the rules. If it's in order to move to table it, I'll do so.
Okay, well, a motion to table is on the floor and it requires a 2/3 supermajority. All those in favor of tabling this to January, please raise their hand.
I don't think you can see me, but I'm voting in favor.
Hold on. If you're moving the table, one, who's ever speaking can't be interrupted. Two, that needs a second.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. Can't be debated, can't be amended, and you need a majority. So if there's motion table, is there a second?
I seconded.
Okay. Well, now it goes to majority. And then we need a roll call vote.
Well,
So
if it's split because there was 4 and 4. But you want me to call the roll?
oh. I'm sorry.
I don't think we need a roll unless one of you requests it, unless someone requests it.
Okay. So all those in favor of tabling it, please raise your hand or say aye, because I didn't see those hands go up.
Aye.
3, 4. All those opposed. 1, 2, 3. All those abstaining. 1. Okay, so it's 4 to 3 to 1. So the motion to table carries. So I hope that with this being available, you are able to contribute and participate in crafting more strong language as to what we want in it, and we'll see it in January.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, with that, let's move on to the resolution highlighting administrative challenges in issuing ANC grants and requesting procedural improvements to facilitate commission grant making. This is a resolution that I am proposing that was largely crafted off the resolution that 4B recently put forward, but I added to the resolution more specifics regarding the grant that was disapproved. I'm sorry, whoever is, I need to mute. Sorry, Rick, I had to mute you. You were having background noises. I added the language around in the whereases regarding the disallowment of our grant on the Undesigning the Red Line project, and the details about what the OANC disallowed the grant upon the following justifications, and then also included some of the information from the Office of District of Columbia Auditor that was published in the audit of the Advisory Neighborhood Commission 5E that was available December 15th of this year, literally last week. That really points out that OANC hasn't provided good guidance or clear rules and ideas around grants and expenses for advisory neighborhood commissions. So if you all want me to read the resolves, I'm happy to do that. I'm hoping that you were able to read most of this, but okay, so I'll just read them quickly. So in the resolves, therefore be it resolved that ANC3C calls on OANC to implement its stated practice of reviewing grants prior to their presentation in a public commission meeting and timely and accurately communicate with commissions in their grant making. This may include providing a schedule and a timeline for review by the OANC so the commissions can do their part in ensuring grant applications are reviewed by OANC prior to a commission vote. Be it further resolved that OANC should revise the ANC handbook to define all expenditure categories, including grants, including when to use each category in the quarterly reporting, and detail what documentation is required for each expenditure category. Be it further resolved that 3C strongly calls on OANC to create a compendium of all the office's actions allowing or disallowing commission grants, including providing the relevant commission, the applicant, the grant application subject, and the office's disposition and rationale for that disposition to assist in commission grant making. If there are concerns about confidentiality or privacy, there are ways to anonymize such a compendium while still providing immense value to the commissions. Be it further resolved that ANC3C calls on OANC in coordination with the District Office of the Attorney General to develop a review process for which an ANC disagrees in good faith with a determination by the OANC to disallow a grant. The commission seeks guidance as to where the commission holds a reasonable general belief that the office has issued incorrect guidance, as well as information regarding how this disagreement might impact grant applications for that specific grant and possible future grant applications. Be it further resolved that ANC3C calls on the Office of the Attorney General for the District of Columbia to develop a searchable collection of its advice to ANCs. Be it further resolved that ANC3C calls on the DC Council in coordination with advisory neighborhood commissions, the OANC, and the Office of the Attorney General to consider legislative revisions to facilitate commission grant making, including clarification regarding what constitutes a public benefit, recognizing that it is impossible in practice to have a project that serves no more and no less than the commissioned area and other challenges faced by commissions. Be it further resolved that 3C requests permission from OANC to approve the funding of $5,000 to St. Columba's Episcopal Church in support of Undesigning the Red Line project as proposed bills under consideration in the Council of the District of Columbia are directly related to the topic Undesigning the Red Line project would address. And then I name the bills under consideration. And therefore, the project meets the requirements of DC Code. The DC Code states that an ANC can spend its funds for public purposes within the commission area, and that a public purpose shall be a purpose that benefits the community as a whole and is not done for the primary purpose of benefiting a private entity. Be it resolved that the chair is authorized to represent the commission on this matter. With that, I move this resolution.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Prinzo. Then we can open it up for discussion, questions, and comments. Are there any? Commissioner Kripke.
Just want to express my support for the resolution and my thanks to Commissioner Pagets for drafting it, and also to express my extreme frustration with the Office of ANC in how they're treating ANCs and the grant making here. It's just, I mean, it's really ridiculous what they're saying, and seems quite capricious and arbitrary what they're deciding. And they're also deciding that there's no appeal to their decision making, or asserting that anyway in their communications. And it just it leaves a really sour taste in my mouth. And I'm glad other ANCs are beginning to take action on this. And I really want to add our ANC to that objection. So thanks for doing it, and I support it.
Yeah, thank you. And it's definitely, it's not just us, it's not just Ward 3, it's all over, and it's stuff that had been approved like in previous commissions commissions, and it's just not great, because I think all of us on this commission agree that the $90,000 we have in the bank account is not doing any good there. It's going to do a lot more good in our community, and we should know better than OANC as to how to distribute those funds as we see the need to distribute them. So and that's true of every well, for the most part, every commission throughout the District of Columbia. Does anyone else have comments, questions from the community? Hearing none, I'd like to suggest this without objection to move it to a vote. Are there any objections? Okay, all those in favor of supporting this resolution, please raise your hand or say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All 8 hands are up, so this passes 8-0. Thank you. And hopefully something positive will come of this. All right, next up on the agenda, we have resolution regarding a Green New Deal for social housing. Commissioner Geis, you want to?
Yeah, I can motivate. Councilmember Janice Lewis George, who I anecdotally ran into this afternoon, is going to be reintroducing her council bill from the previous session, calling for a Green New Deal for social housing. Social housing, for the uninitiated, is a housing model where the public, the government, acquires buildings, and the revenue generated by those buildings goes into purchasing more public housing. And also sustaining the housing and buildings themselves. Kind of a crude way of explaining that. But hey, and so we went and spoke about this resolution during the Housing and Economic Development Committee meeting earlier this month. Having a presentation from organizers who are passing similar resolutions and ANCs around DC. And they gave a presentation speaking about the movement that they are building around the district to get the momentum necessary to have this bill be passed. There is a bit of open discussion about whether or not Councilmember Fruman and his office will sign on when the bill is introduced, and I'm hoping that our commission signing on to this will help push him in that direction. And yeah, no, I'm happy to answer questions if folks have friendly amendments they'd like to add. That's fine with me. That's all I have.
You need to move it.
I motion to pass the resolution in favor of endorsing the Green New Deal for social housing.
Second.
Okay. So are there any questions, comments, friendly amendments?
I do have 2 friendly amendments, Commissioner Geis. That's okay. I've made them on a track changes version.
Yeah.
First one is and I think this should be relatively easy. The first is the last whereas clause. If we can just and whereas Advisory Neighborhood Commission ANC3C passed resolution 2022-019, and it cites the previous resolution in support of the earlier version of this bill. And the second to last resolved, be it further resolved that this resolution should be seen as a complement to ANC3C resolution 2022-19, and that the council should consider both resolutions in decision making.
I will accept your friendly amendments happily.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anyone have anything else? All right, Commissioner Nash had to drop for a meeting, but he wishes us all happy holidays. All right, anybody from the community? Kathy?
Yes, just another somewhat quick question for Commissioner Geis and the drafters of the resolution. Seemed to me when I read it, a few hours ago that there's some discussion of social housing and what it is, and of course I was hurrying up and cramming reading the bill at the same time. It's the most wonderful concept with the most difficult challenges when you get on the ground to, the economics of the thing, the social aspects of the thing, how are you going to do it, of it all. And I think within the bill, it seems to be the case that they intend, for the housing to be self-sustaining and, for it to have essentially no fiscal impact. And in fact, to produce a certain amount of seed money in addition to what Housing Production Trust Fund comes up with. And also to actually, cover the administrative expenses of the office that would administer the program. And, that's no doubt a super tall order. It seems like the resolution also brings in, the desirability of having such housing, located, along the metro lines and so forth. And obviously that, really means, in our general Ward 3 area, that certainly means us. And I was wondering, given that this is a bill that goes for DC, as a whole, why our resolution kind of highlights that. Do we need to do that, or do we just need to say that, this is, these are great ideals. This is, that's one question. The other question is just, do we have a proof of concept in the United States?
Chair Pagets, can I respond? Thank you so much for your consideration. I can tell you put a lot of thought into this, and I really just appreciate just everywhere you're coming from. I can respond to your second question first, just because the answer is the easiest. Yes, I believe in Silver Spring, Maryland. One of their first social housing models opened up, I believe, last year for the first time. And my very brief understanding, or just for sake of condensing what is otherwise a much longer story, they accidentally created a social housing model in Silver Spring. It was never intended. It just sort of worked out that way. They were like, we should have a publicly funded building that should be self-sustaining, and it should, go have revenue in a trust that goes towards expanding the program. And that's social housing. So yes, we do have a proof of concept. It's expanding. I think there's every reason to think that is going well. Based on your other question, which is about, should our resolution reflect a desire to have social housing in our neighborhood, and generally reflecting the attitude of, we should have, social housing buildings along transit connected areas. This is a conversation that came up in our committee meeting, and I thought it was an incredibly fruitful discussion. Commissioner Kripke raised this point, which was in a neighborhood where housing costs and building costs are much higher, it doesn't make sense fiscally to invest in that as a starting project, to have seed money into, and see that expand versus the competitive advantage that you could have using cheaper construction in other parts of town. And I think that the proof of concept, I'm not going to pretend that we have fiscal models on this, but my general thinking is that in a higher cost of living area, 40% of the units are going to be market rate. So it's going to be 30%, I believe, for between 0 and 30% income of median income, and then between 30 and 80% for the other remaining 30%. But that 40% market rate is what you're going to need to sustain the building and expand the program. And I think it's intuitive that you would want that to be in an area where that excess revenue could potentially even exceed in another area. And I think that could provide, some, a fiscal backing to sustain the office outside of just generally the funds generated by the buildings. Those are my thoughts on it. I don't know if that answers your question. I hope.
It's excellent answer. I mean, if you know the name of the Silver Spring, project, that would be great too. And I am so sorry I missed that discussion. I couldn't be at that housing committee meeting, but
I
yeah,
think
sounds
Commissioner
good.
Siddiqui just put an article about it in.
Oh,
the
great.
chat.
In chat. Yeah. Okay. Super. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Just want to thank you for doing the legwork on this and inviting guests to speak and everything. I think this is very good for our community, and it's popular, and really appreciate you doing this.
I second that. I'd like to move this to a vote if there are no objections. Are there any objections to moving to the vote? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving this resolution, please raise your hand or say aye. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hands up. And then since Rick has dropped off the call, it's approved 7-0 to 0. So thank you again. And last but not least is the treasurer's report, if there is one.
Treasurer doesn't have a report, but I do have to say Commissioner Gordon's Christmas ANC vote should be like the background of what every ANC commissioner feels after their last meeting of the year, and it's about to be Christmas.
Sick.
Feeling festive.
All right, with that, is there a motion to?
Can I motion to adjourn this meeting?
Second.
All those in favor? All right, happy holidays, y'all, and happy new year.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Holiday.